Okay, it's do or die time. Game 3. We're going to see the adjustments in the draft. As expected, we see Kindred and Nico hitting the bans. Zaya being picked blue 1. So already we can call this a draft win for Gigabyte Marines. They've accomplished everything that they need to get done. Also, we see Jarvan and Lee Sin to take more playmakers away. Although I tend to want carries for Piosik based on what we talked about in Game 2. Who's playing well? What are they doing well? How should they be playing to synergize as best as possible? I'd like to give a carry jungler to Piosik. And we mentioned Wukong being one of the champions that might have made it in. It was picked here on blue too, so maybe Team Liquid thought they could get that for themselves. But with the jungle pool pinched right now, they end up with Sejuani. So we're going to talk about that a little bit during the game. Maybe we'll be happy to see that there's some surprises. But when your player who's playing the best has an opportunity to play carries or play tanks, you absolutely want to give them the carries. And if Piosik is playing 1v9, then you need to give him champions that can 1v9, and Sejuani is just not it. Summit has been playing fine as well, so giving him Jax, I do like that. He's going to have Jax into Cassante, although they did opt to take Cassante into Jax, so they're feeling fine in that matchup as well. We also have Rel that's going to create some good engages. Syndra here versus Ahri, I would have liked to take something a little bit more decisive into the Syndra here. I think that this is a little bit of a missed opportunity. We do end up with Kai'Sa, which is going to be okay this game. But basically, we were talking about this. Do you end up with the draft prep? It looks like the adjustments for Gigabyte Marines were a little bit easier for Team Liquid. We'll see how it ends up in. All right, loading onto the Rift, we're going to see what kind of aggressive plays we have available to us at level 1. I'd like to see super proactive plays here. Summit making it a little bit too obvious that he's baiting here by stepping this far forward. Yaya has been solo dying this game. Going in, we're going to have E-Star into W. Sejuani's not going to be able to follow up. It's a little bit too close. I would have preferred to see them get much further in. I don't like Summit's angle for that play. I do like that there's a proactive play, but now they're going to have to pay the penalty, which is a bunch of wards being left on the eastern side. Normally, you want to bring a sweeper with you when you're doing this play, so you can take some amount of prize. On the flip side, you can kill those wards. We do see that one. Looks like the charge was used up in the top side. Sometimes you want to take it back for yourself onto the bottom half of the map. Now, Piosik's going to get a leash, as is Wukong. Perhaps this is defending against Wukong invades. Wukong has the strongest passive for early fighting in the game, right? He's gaining stacking, HP regen, and armor for the fights, which is very, very strong with these junglers when they end up just bonking each other with not even any stats from like a Doran's item. So it can be exceptionally strong. Wukong should be playing super aggressively. I imagine that the fact that they're leashing is to defend against this. Normally, you'd see Sejuani starting on Raptors, and then from Raptors, if because of your invade, there should have been no vision of whether or not you stay on your Raptor side or whether or not you cross map. And I would have preferred to see that from Piosik, right? You can start Raptors, and then you have a couple of options available, right? You can go 1, 2, 3 into top side, or you can move over into 4, 5, 6. Or you can change that around and go 1, and then you go here, you go blue Gromp, circle back Wolves. You can go Krugs Red or Red Krugs, depending on what you want to do, and then fight for this Scuttle Crab on the 7. You probably don't want to do this in the knowledge that they leashed, because then you'll be fighting against Wukong. So you could have opted for this just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Sorry. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then get this uncontested 7, and then you're looking at a potential timer for 8. But anyways, we'll take a peek at what they are able to get done. A little bit of early pressure here, using full blue clear, going into his Raptors now. Fortunately, this means that they can have full information of where Sejuani's camps are. We'll see if Wukong can take advantage of that. Jax getting the early advantage here in the top lane as Wukong is stacking up. You want this lane to rebound. Now, it looks like Sejuani's actually pairing to try to match any of the plays. Wukong not particularly good at ganking. He's such a heavy level 6 spike for the ganks, but he is very good in these early skirmishes. So I don't necessarily like that Sejuani's going into this path. Also opting to take red before Raptors, putting a little bit, I'd say way too much priority on clearing the Raptors at an unpredictable time. Means that the path itself is just very, very slow. That means that Wukong should have access to double Scuttle here if they want it. clearing the ward for themselves as well, so has perfect information. The prerogative will be for Wukong to get as much done as they want. Summit realizing you can respond to Q1, they're going for a little bit of a clear, going to show a little bit of aggression. We're going to see our first standoff in the top lane. Now the minion disadvantage is there, and I don't think this aligns with any level spikes, so it's not like you're going to be able to use this. You'd like to take this broken freeze opportunity and align it with minions giving you level 5, and that's not going to be the case here. We'll see if Sejuani can actually kill them. Nope, the AoE passes through. Man, what a insanely long fight here. K'Sante getting it, Wukong decoying and flashing away. We get this very scuffed lane state at the end. Oh man, there's no good way out. You walked yourself against the wall here. Once you get yourself, Kiaya went and took their trig class. Once you have the wall right here and you path yourself into this little corridor, the K'Sante just takes this angle and basically any spell will hit you. That is advantage to them. So what I was saying about the level up timers, when you're talking about the next wave, this one with the cannon is where you're trying to spike your Jax level 5, right? And you see him hitting 5 right there. If this fight breaks out and they're pushing into you, you necessarily have had access to more experience than they have. So one of the things that you want to do when you're aligning this attempt at breaking this freeze and bringing a jungler over, you want to make sure that it's happening while you're hitting 5. That's where you can get the spike, because otherwise the minions are going to be a meaningful difference in that fight, especially if it's a cannon. All right, early in the game, before first shop, cannon should be treated like an extra champion, and after first shop it should be treated like half a champion, and that difference can make a tremendous can make a swing into one of those all-in brawls. Also in that case, you just saw that there's 4 minions pushing in against 1 at the end there. It means that those 4 are going to be alive and hitting you. They're all casters. They're going to be hitting you the entire time in the fight. You don't have an aggro drop the way that Wukong does. And that was ultimately the difference in that fight. Check it out, right? You see these minions right here? You're not going to hit level 5 until this. So you need to make that fight. You'd rather this stay for a little bit longer. You don't want to show all that aggression. You want to pause for long enough, let some of these minions die, and then you can go in for this all-in. And even in the middle of this fight, if you can get those minions to die, you see how these are dropping down? If those die, you hit level 5, and then you can take this fight with your level spike. You get the extra health, the extra armor, the extra damage. All of that will add up for the fight itself. Right here, Piosik just putting themselves in that spot where and get anything left. Yeah, having exactly enough mana at the end as well. All right, so early advantage to Gigabyte Marines. Sejuani's going to be stuck on this weird path for the second clear, going back to Raptors and Krugs, trying to not get invaded. Like we saw before, this means that we have an early respawn on blue and a sort of syncopated respawn here. We'll see if she ends up passing the buff over to Ahri. Caddy opting to use the ultimate up front. One of the things you can do is use your R into the E as Syndra. Hold on, we'll pause for as we see this fight. Of the protection of this ward, they don't know that Levi's there. Eventually they do get it. They're going to get a little bit of the chunk here. But that will be the end of the play. I liked this timer at 7 minutes. I'd like to see this turn into tempo in every lane. I need this lane to get crashed in though, right? You want to crash this wave, then you move together. Summit should take the recall. Nope, they're actually going to continue the fight. Rakan has stepped out before continuing the play. It means that All Out is going to deal significant damage, and they bring him under turret range. Now, Summit is actually getting himself into a pocket of safety, but it's not enough compared to the mobility of K'Sante at that level. What I'm talking about with core JJ, right? You have to finish that push, make sure it crashes, and then you can continue the roam. You go jungle plus support, they rotate down river. Your top lane, sorry, I should do it this way. Your jungle and support, they can move in, they create the push in this lane. The top laner can go here, recall to bot lane recalls and goes to top. You pick up the herald together, and then you make this play. This is the best maneuvering that you can do to ensure yourself to get a herald, and you can have strength in all portions of the map. They had the beginning portions of it either opting to not do that play, or they just don't know about it. Would have loved to see Team Liquid continue that. That was 1/3 of the Giga outplay. You know, our scripted plays. We scripted NA Herald for Clutch back in 2019. We wish we could get a message through to Team Liquid like, hey, you guys are so close. So close. Just finish, rotate, 3v1 here. These two people swap, and then you come over. By pushing out the lane, you get prio as well for this. You have 4 people in position. You've pushed all the lanes. There's no good answer apart from them giving up waves to try to contest you if you're proactive about it. Anyways, instead, we're going to have 1,300 gold lead. It is ballooning. Cassante is huge, which means we're probably not going to have any solo bolos against Kiaya. We're not going to be able to exploit their overstays unless we can. If we can, it would be tremendous because of the extra 300 gold going in here. I like to see taking a pick here means that you're going to have prio on this dragon. So taking something for yourself on the map. I do love this from Team Liquid. It also strands Xayah on the bot half of the map. It means that she can't feel as strong as she otherwise would into Kai'Sa. Normally 1v1, you're very happy right there because Xayah will always have the push, although the kill threat does belong to Kai'Sa. But while your team is picking up Herald, that's generally what you want to have happen. Palette getting a little bit over antsy, stepping into the southern quadrant. So I will give props to Team Liquid for realizing that we're gonna have to drop this. That means we want to make this a point of strength, and we can corral this vision and get the dragon for ourselves. They end up not pulling the dragon though. For some reason. I don't know why. Dragon's not a huge prize, but you do want it. You do want to take it. It is better than nothing. It's better than a singular camp. Opting instead, it looks like they took Raptors and then moved out. After that pallet kill, they should have felt very comfortable taking this. Actually, I want to go back and look. Okay, so they're in on Dragon. Why did they pull back? This is Wukong pathing across mid. API should be shoving. You shouldn't be trying to play cautiously at all here. You should kill this wave. You don't want to do anything else and then move over. So yeah, they just felt like they were going to lose this fight. Having 2 ultimates down, they didn't want to go. So good job by Gigabyte Marines pushing forward into that window and scaring Team Liquid off. Very bizarre. If done appropriately, like teams should just go and take that dragon together. It seems like they opted to say, all right, let me do my lane state as well and let me fix something before coming over. No, like there's nothing that you can accomplish individually in this game faster than a team moving together. You see the ramifications of that decision, right? You decide to split off, go back to your lanes and go, and you know, Kai'Sa going for a recall even means that they're too slow. They'd like to get that back if they could. Take a peek at this play. Just chain CC, beautifully done by Palette. Jumping on top of Sejuani to peel. Make no mistake, this was not an engage onto Sejuani. This was all peel, right? You're going on the backline, making sure that they can't join the fight. All right, Dragon taken by Gigabyte Marines. They get it for themselves. This wave will be collected by Xayah. AoE clear makes it very easy for her to step up. Palette actually stepping up to protect this ward a little bit. Zombie ward still the prize for Core JJ. Would like to see Slater slam into that wave a little bit harder. Your teammates got a plan. Go for that plan. You're right. Lean into your strength. Whatever your strength is, you always want to lean into it. But anyways, they do pick it up. They also pick up the ward in the tri-bush. There's no more pushing threat. This is going to be the end of the push here. 118 means that Kai'Sa is going to be on her completed Kraken Slayer. Talking about the different builds, heavy magic damage index this game, right? You're dealing a significant amount. We're talking about like 30% here, nearly 100% here. It is 100% here, magic damage. This is a game where you'd much rather be the Umbral Glaive, right? So Umbral Glaive, we've mentioned it before, but Glaive into Serrated Dirk is enough to get your AD spiked up, so you can spike as Kai'Sa, you get that Q evolve. Then you can go for Collector, because it's the single biggest spike off of that momentum on the cheapest amount of gold. It gives you the ability to execute, plus gives you some extra damage for those crits. Then you go into Rageblade. Rageblade giving you the biggest spike there on the on-hits, working with the lethality, you get the empowered damage coming out. Then you can go into Gnasher's Tooth to round out the build. You know, most of these games don't necessarily make it to 4 items, or they get decided before then, but it is absolutely something that you want to be, that you want to have a bit available to you. Now, everything basically coming up for GAM. They've got the Herald for themselves. They've got the Dragon. They've got better resets. The only thing that they don't have is this completed Kraken Slayer. onto the jungler. So we'll see whether or not Liquid can take this as a point of strength. Yeon should look for this 1v1 right now as hard as possible. He should be trying to slam this. There's so much unspent gold. He's stepping back. Yeon needs to take advantage of this. He's not doing it. There's a fight in mid. You can see that the jungler and support are mid lane right now. You need to take this fight if you're Kai'Sa. This is a huge miss by Yeon. Huge miss. Literally everyone showing on the map, you need to take that fight for yourself. Instead, we're going to have a rebound. Xayah's going to come back onto the map with Kraken Slayer and Berserker Greaves. Now the advantage is hers. She'll be able to take this. Yeon going for just the slam probably means that they have upgraded boots as well. Completed items from junglers plus magical footwear. Basically, you always see magical footwear and cosmic insight. That gives them access to smites. And specifically, when you get into these matchups, having the smite advantage might mean that you have invade timers. That is something that most junglers will check as the game starts off. Try to get a key in on whether or not the enemy jungler has cosmic insight, and if they don't. But honestly, it becomes so standard that a lot of these people don't check it. I know personally that they do not go about finding this and checking the rooms, seeing if they have access to something else, because it's just so standard, right? And being so standard, it's just the way. But you could potentially exploit it at some point. You're like, okay, you want to put a rune into this. Can I get value from another rune elsewhere? Maybe it's water walking and something, right? And say, I just want to take the early stats in this fight. I know that you won't have anything. Yes, you'll have an extra smite available, but you won't actually have the combat stats that I do from water walking plus celerity, for example. And I'm just going to chase you down in the river, take a fight like this Wukong versus Sejuani and just take it to you. Yeah, going all in. We've got Iceborne Gauntlet. This is what we're talking about. This is what Kai'Sa should have done in the bot lane, which was, hey, look, I'm stronger than you. I'm going to find this fight. But Summit actually playing it tremendously well, even getting a grass proc off there, surviving the all-in. Fantastically done. That was level 10 versus 11 with completed Iceborne Gauntlet and Merc Treads. Like, this is a big, big gap that we're talking about, and Summit manages to survive it. But I like that Kiaya goes for it, right? You should go for that. That is something that Yeon should have done against Slater with Kai'Sa versus Xayah. All right, second Herald coming up, aligned with second Dragon. We'll see what they do. The correct choice is going to be give Dragon, get Herald, turn it into map pressure, and then you can balloon your lead from here. See what they opt for. Looks like we have a flank here from Summit. This is going to be pretty exciting. Cassante is not in position, but he does have his teleport available. APA is coming in. We're going for a big flank. We see the big engage. This is a tremendous play by Liquid. They blow up the fight to start. Beautiful. They get one pick, but Kiaya's in the middle of it all, which means that they're doing tons of damage back. Also, Summit's moving to try to secure the kill on Pallet. Yeon is inconsequential in this fight, not even using his ultimate. What are you doing? This is the third game that Yeon has left a tremendous amount on the table. His laning has been great. He's been doing fantastically for himself, even getting CS leads into bad matchups. But he is leaving things on the table, worried about his own preservation, his own image right now. This is unacceptable that you're in this fight and dealing this little damage. Looking at Piosik as well. Like, look at this. If you're Piosik, you need to be in the middle of that fray. You need to be the one soaking up any amount of damage. Why are you pulling back? All right, I'm going to tell you why. That control ward is OP. If you get into this fight ever, this ward is mandatory. All right, anytime you're fighting around a bush, drop your ward in the bush. It is team fight 101. You have vision in the bush and they don't, you can win the fight even when you're down, all right? Because you can use that as a point. You can jump in, you can jump out, you can drop behind the bush, jump into the bush, pull people in different directions, and it makes them lose sight for their auto attacks and for their single target spells, and it might make them miss their AoE spells as well. It is paramount to the success in your fights that you get rid of it. But honestly, Piosik, the combination of the two of them, like, I cannot explain. I cannot fathom what decision tree leads you there. Like, your team is obviously all in on the all-in fight. You need to be there. You cannot be making some sort of call that says, no, I think we should actually be backing. It's off the table. Your team is in. You have to punish. You have full HP bars, and you have enough of your cooldowns available. And specifically, Kai'Sa, even having the access to the ultimate and not getting it unleashed in that fight. Huge, huge, huge miss from Team Liquid. Honestly, if they're going to do that in this fight, I don't want them in this tournament. I would rather that they lose this. Go Gigabyte Marines, guys. You've been a much more exciting team. It's more exciting to watch Kiaya coin flip up in top lane than to watch a team that like should win these fights and just chooses not to take them to the limit. I need to cool down. I feel stress. I'm hot right here, so I'm going to take my deep breath, put that energy into me so I can not be as heated. But my goodness, that has to be a huge loss. If I'm a teammate, I'm like, what do you like? You look back at the fight, and honestly, you know, it's a pretty solo queue thing to look back at other people, be like, GTF, you know, WTF? Why were you over here? Our fight was here. Question mark ping spam. That's where the sentiment would come from. You never want to do it. It's never good to actually do that, but you see that in that moment where you're just like, what were you guys doing? So anyways, 2,500 gold lead plus 2 dragons in the pockets here of Gigabyte Marines. The only cost is the mid lane turret, so they're going to give some of that gold back. But the map is theirs, right? And going into this dragon, we're going to see second item spikes come in significantly faster. We're going to see, oh, it's going to be Abyssal Mask here. Abyssal Mask is great. I love it. And you know what? It's going to carry tons of value this game. But again, this is one of those games where you're only amplifying one person on your team. I would rather see Force of Nature. If it's a purely defensive item, Force of Nature is better than Abyssal Mask. Abyssal Mask is cheaper, right? So you can actually consider yourself buying yourself an extra item, lean into that, and that is where a lot of the source of Abyssal Mask's strength comes. Sort of like Void Staff. A lot of these teams are opting to build Void Staff over Rabadons. I don't think it's correct, but I understand how they get to that. They're saying Void Staff plus Blasting Wand is still less money than Rabadons, and so we can mitigate the effect that you don't get the extra AP. But on a champion like Orianna, where you get that shield strength, is such a big deal, and you're not actually buying Blasting Wand for your next item, means that you can't really count for that. You can't say like, hey, Void Staff plus Blasting Wand is better than Rabadons because reason like it's just not there. It doesn't actually exist. This case, yes, you can make a case like I'm going to have an extra stopwatch going into my fight compared to trying to wait for another item. But again, this item, it's not enough. Force of Nature would be extremely preferred into this composition, especially when we're talking about Leandri's over here. So you're getting multiple ticks from the W or even just one spell hitting. We're even talking about some of Kaisa's damage, her W and her 5th proc auto, talking about all of this and all of this besides autos. So there is a lot of magic damage out there. I would have preferred to see Force of Nature. We'll see if that comes back to bite them in the butt. That said, completed items, stopwatch. We've got Hex Drinker, second item complete. Nothing, right? None of these champions have second items completed. So we're going to see whether or not that gets punished. Here, the map belongs to Gigabyte Marines. They should be playing for pressure, fighting for tempo in lanes, and then moving that over into the Baron area. Gaia is going to have a lot of strength into this Jax. Wondering whether or not and how deep they can go. All right, they catch Yeon. You see the control word dropped into the bush immediately. Means that they're going to have the advantage in this fight. Yeon has to step back. Again, he's probably just not going to contribute at all in this fight. Look at him constantly stepping back. Get out of Worlds, dude. Come back next year. Come back next year. Be a little bit more prepared. Realize, as a coaching staff, this is what we're talking about. So I don't want to be so harsh on the guy. I do want to applaud his strengths and say, okay, you know, you're going to be an elite player. You're going to be an elite player. You're young enough. You've got time. You're going to be good. There's going to be chances for you. But preparing for next year, like, these are the things that you have to work on. This is something that you have to decide to get better at. You know, I'm sorry I'm so harsh on you, but I know that you can be great. I want you to be great. That's why I want to put this on you so that you have that opportunity. You know, I'm going to coach you hard. The best thing you can do, the best credit you can give a great player is to coach them hard, right? Say like, yeah, you're great, but there is still stuff on the table for you. Hopefully he doesn't feel too down on himself after this game, although there is so much that was left there for him to get. Now, Team Liquid does take a dragon for themselves. There are pros and cons to this. Obviously, taking it off does delay the soul, which means that if you're getting pincered for the rest of the game and you're just getting pushed into your turrets, you don't want to get a situation where they balloon their lead and they get soul. But there is a world where you might say, hey, 16 minutes from now, I actually want Elder to spawn. right? And that's not going to happen. Right now we're talking about, well, sorry, 16 minutes from now as opposed to 11. Do you want it 11 minutes from now? You're going to be on 3 items, right? Is there a chance that in 16 minutes that they're going to be on 4 and you're still on 3? That is something that you should make that decision for. Giving soul is not the be all and end all. You do want to fight for elder, and you're more likely to win games flipping for elder, because if you flip for soul and you win, the only thing you get is D1, right? Give soul, go for elder, because if you win that fight, you have elder dragon and you can win the game. Whereas if you win a soul fight, you just get a dragon that is fairly meaningless at that stage in the game. That's why in most of these situations, I'd rather just give it to them, let them have it, and then fight for it at the moment where you're going to be strong. In this case, we're talking about 5 minutes, and then 6 minutes for elder. So if we're talking about at 21, and we're comparing whether or not I take dragon versus you, if I just let you take the dragon, then we're talking about a 37-minute battle for elder. And like, yeah, that's a reasonable place to try to survive until. And then you're absolutely going to be playing with the next spikes. Or wouldn't even need that many. It would just be 5 and 6. So sorry, it's 21, 5 for the next, and then there. This would be even better, right? 32 minutes is the best case situation where you're going to be on recently buying your 3rd items. They probably don't have their 4th items, or maybe one of them does. That's going to be your best chance at coin flipping this game. But it takes a lot of gumption to do that. That is certainly not available in solo queue. Don't try it in solo queue. Because your team will just flame, be like, WTF, why weren't you at dragon? We wanted to int. We wanted to int really hard. For what, guys? Always be thinking about the pros and cons of your play. What is the benefit now and later? Even if this play works, what do I get? In this case, you know, you're going to be prolonging the game. You have a little bit of strength back to yourself. They may not even think that they're that far behind because of the 3 kills, which is probably why they end up going for it. But when you just take into account also, like, look at all the structures that are going down. Good job by GAM, proactively pushing, moving together, using the Baron exactly as it's meant to be used for maximum strength. Now, I do want to talk about this right here. This should have been a fight that Team Liquid could have taken, right? That money has not been consolidated into the inventories yet. They're pushing up in top lane. That's their weakest moment. Now that they're recalling, you're going to see everyone come back with all their items, right? Like, filled up with wards. We're going to have 2.5 items here, almost on 3. 2.5, almost on 3. 2.5, almost on 3. These guys are so close that they don't even need to press for anything right now. They can actually just suffocate you with what they have in their inventory, and then they can go get their recalls, finish their 3rd items, probably get a stopwatch on the Xayah as well, and then they are going to look to end. So with GAM, that's what I want, is a little bit of patience. Patience, name of the game. No reason to necessarily press for these. You already have to give up all of this vision on the side, and you have 2 minutes until the Baron. So those are the factors kind of leaning into how they're approaching this game right now. Yes, if a fight comes to you, great, but you don't need to reach for one. You're going to have one handed to you right here, and you're going to be even stronger relative to the enemies at that point. If you're Team Liquid and you want to get out of this situation, you have to create a point of strength and say, hey, no, look, come to this spot right now. I want you to have to fight us in random situations. See if we can get some amount of vision somewhere up front, preferably in bot lane, far away from the Baron. And put a lot of pressure to them there. Just keep this shallow line of wards and then go with strength. And then say, all right, you guys want to take Baron. We'll trade it for the dragon and see whether or not you can make them answer tough questions. Now, in this case, the questions aren't so tough to answer, but that is constantly the play. All right, here we go. Kaisa finally jumping in just in time to get sucked up by a rel vacuum that she dies. Okay, she would have had the same amount of damage as the other fights anyways. Sorry. Is that too harsh? I don't know. I don't think it's... Maybe it's not harsh enough. Team Liquid left so much on the table. It's exciting to see, you know, the teams do well, but frankly, I think the sentiment is shared, and you guys can let me know. Put the hashtag, or put the timer 2720 in the chat. What do you think of this Team LCK? Right? Like, and remember specifically, they had another Korean player in mid lane as well, who ended up getting outperformed by APA, and they ended up creating a language barrier. But apart from that, this is 4 Korean players, and at one point was 5. Would you care? Do you have an opinion? What do you think about 5 Korean players on an NA roster? If they won Worlds, would you feel good? Like, would you be a fan? Are you that much of a fan of Team Liquid? I want to know. I want to know what people think about that. I, for one, I wouldn't feel good as a fan of the region. Just like I'd much rather, I said it in the last game, I'd much rather have Disguised Toast's lineup in the academy with 5 NA players than having 5 Korean players and having any amount of success. And honestly, Disguised Toast is making a serious case for relegation, having dominated the challenger split, giving good money to backup players for some of these rosters, putting together a superstars team and completely crushing the environment. I hope he gets a chance to bring that roster up into the LCS, right? Whether or not he buys his way onto a team. We know that TSM has sold out. We know that we're going to have a different look to the league because these teams have mismanaged their resources, spending way too much money on guaranteed contracts for foreign players and not performing, not getting the kickback, just assuming that the flow of money was going to be permanent. And instead of setting up a strong infrastructure, they ended up just kind of all in on the momentum, and the momentum didn't carry into sponsorships the way that they were expecting. And largely that's because of the way things are viewed, right? You guys, the viewers, you like to see things ad free, you like to see things on Twitch, and there's not that much money there. So that's the big difference, is they can't sell broadcasting rights, and they're working this way into it. So honestly, us as viewers, we have to start being okay with where the money's actually coming in. The money's going to come from advertising. So we have to be okay with some amount of advertisement coming up. I don't necessarily like this one so much, but we have to be okay with stuff like this. Secret Lab getting a little bit of a shout out right here, right? Like these little spots, that's okay. I'm down with that. And the spots in between games, the fact that they have their advertising segments, you can sponsor the power play, Red Bull Baron power play, et cetera, et cetera. That's where the money is going to be. That's what's going to sustain this as a career path. The college scene is doing great. I hope that continues to go. I hope that continues to feed up. I want the challenger scene to do well. I have a lot of ideas and philosophies on how that should be handled. You shouldn't have 2 different rostered teams of 5 and 5 that are completely separate doing their own scrims. Like, you should be playing together the way a basketball team does. Train against each other, improve each other. You could move your mid jungle and pair it with the other side's top and bot lane and make an even team if you want parity. Or you can say, all right, here's my other team. Here's what I want you to accomplish this game. Here's the strengths that they have, and you treat it like a scouting report and actually try to outperform. The difference is not that drastic that you can't make plays. It also forces you to be ingenious, or innovative, I should say, in these situations. Instead, we end up with the same thing. I have a team. My other team doesn't matter. My challenger team does nothing. My 5 only practices by scrims, which means I can't practice effectively because people care about the result. A scrim, you're trying to win, and you care about the result rather than trying to build off of things. And also, you would need to, if you were playing with another team, you'd need to agree, like, hey, even after this fight, let's not take the dragon. Let's just all come back to our base and dance for 5 minutes, wait for things to respawn, recreate the exact same lane state, and then come back and fight it again, right? Like, that's the sort of effective practice that you need to have, and they just don't have that. Everything's about scrim block, competitive, grind games, compete more, and it results in bad practice. And Riot takes blame for this too. Hashtag Riot, please give us a functioning practice tool and give us Chrono Break so that our teams can actually practice in a meaningful way. Anyways, rant's over. We're looking at perfect endgame strategy here from Gigabyte Marines. You push in once, you push in on the other, then you walk in all 5 people on the other side with the support of the supers. They're just slapping them with their wallet. Is stock standard ending strategy with Baron buff at the end of the game. You see that you do not need soul to end this game. This is where you might have some teammates that are like, back ping, let's go get the dragon soul and actually give our opponents a chance to win, right? Like, if you went back here and you took this soul, you'd be talking about these 2 respawning, all of this gold funneling into all the champions who were down on gold and resources. Suddenly they'll just be catapulted upwards, and then you're going to put an explosive objective on the map 6 minutes from now and say, hey, we're going to give you all these resources, we're going to give you back your inhibitors, and we're giving you, like, the golden experience, and we're giving you the time until Elder, which is now giving you an out right? Like, we're giving you a top deck that might just win you the game. It is so bad on so many levels to stop here and to go back. Now, they follow through. They continue the push. They can go get the soul. I'm fine with this. But again, it now needs to be into immediate threat. The supers are only going to last. You're only going to have 2 more sets of triple supers. So you're going to have to get down the most amount possible. In a way, what happened best for Team Liquid here was that this fight happened before the supers came in line. If you're GAM, you actually want to wait a little bit longer, wait for these supers to barrel in, so that this whole time this turret would be taking damage and it would have fallen during this standstill. Instead, it doesn't. We're going to see the last couple of waves coming in. Soul is in hand, but now they're going to have to go about getting another Baron and doing it again, because we're going to have the respawns here. These will be up after this Baron take. Small things, but, you know, if you're willing to fight over 1 minion in the early game because it means a precise change in a level spike and that, like, that's a small thing. That's 1 minion. We're talking about the actual, like, checkmate on the board here. I would say that learning your end games is much more important than learning your beginnings. And I actually like what they're doing here. They're not playing it for the Baron. They want to escort the supers in, not waiting for this to happen, right? You see how this one doesn't have any left? You're only going to have 2 supers spawning, one in mid, 1 in top. So they take the fight now while there's 6 supers in the base and another 6 coming in. This is what they should do. They find themselves at the Gigabyte Marines surviving. They'll have another elimination series on deck. But it'll be super exciting, right? They're going to have this experience. They've already played 5 games, which is 3 more or 2 more than their opponent, because they're going to be playing someone from the 1-in-1 bracket. But they're going to be a little bit battle tested, right? They've fought through the nerves. They performed. Now they know they can do it. They're going to have a certain amount of confidence, whereas their opponent is going to be someone dropping down from the 1-in-1 that is suddenly put into this do or die situation. So can't wait to see it. Thanks for the support, guys. Make sure you like and subscribe. I'll catch you next time. Stay tuned for all the videos from Worlds. We'll continue to break down every single game.